Hi, this is Michelle with Miss Girl's Scrapbooking Thoughts, and this is the project we're going to be making today. It is a waterfall folio. And it's really simple. It's just made out of chipboard and paper, and we've got some waterfall for a lot of photos. This was asked for me to create a design for a customer of mine, and this is what I came up with. And when I showed it to my customers on my group page, I had another customer ask me if I could design one for her granddaughter who is attending high school this year, and she thought it would be really cute if, you know, her granddaughter could post some pictures of her school activities and just give her like a mini album. I also put some tags, good vibes and good times with you. This isn't the second customers. I'm going to make that one with you today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using the paper collection for her granddaughter called Teen Spirit, and I thought it was just perfect for her. It is made by Echo Park, and I will link it below. I will make sure that they have some left before I link it. But it is a really cute, it's got cassette tapes and unicorns and cameras and just music and all kinds of different things. Roller skates, sunglasses. I thought it was perfect for her granddaughter. So that's the one we're going to use today. So the first thing we need to do is to create our book binding base. And you're going to need two pieces that are 4.5 by 8.5 and one piece that is 3/4 by 8.5. Now you'll need to decide what pattern of paper you want to be your cover, and when you do, it needs to be cut down to 10.5 by 12. So I decided I was going to use this one. Now whatever side you want to show on the outside, that's the part that needs to be faced down. So this is what we'll do. Now, you'll want to bring in your scoreboard, whichever scoreboard you have, and you'll want to score all four sides at 1 inch. I'm just going to bring it in, and I'm going to score all four sides at 1 inch. And this will clear it up when we get to it on why I did this. So we just want to score all four sides. This really is another good beginner album for somebody that's just learning how to create albums. I love making these things. Okay, so we've scored everything at 1 inch. So, like I said, this is the side that we're going to be using, so we're going to flip it over. And we just want to go ahead and fold up on our score lines. Just so we know where they are. You don't really have to burnish them. Okay, now, the reason why I scored it is it makes it a lot easier for you to come in and know exactly where to put your chipboard. So we don't want it to go past any of these score lines. So we come in with our first piece, and we're going to line it up close to that score line, but not over it. Then we're going to leave about 1/4 of an inch. And then we're going to come in with the last piece. And it's over, so I know I need to scoot this down, which is really good about, you never want to just start gluing your pieces down. You want to make sure you have enough room between them. It's still pretty tight. Okay, so we want to go ahead and glue these down, and I just use my glue, my liquid glue. I'm using my art glitter glue. It will dry clear. You can use score tape. You really want to make sure you burnish this down. You want to make sure that glue gets spread out everywhere and that you don't have any air bubbles. Okay. Now the next part is we need to cut off these corners. Now there's two ways that I typically do it. Normally I just leave a little bit off from the edge of the corner and cut with my scissors, or if you're not as good with scissors as you'd like to be, then you can do it this way. You can bring in your ruler, mark it out just a little bit past the corner. We don't want to cut at the corner. Bring in your pencil and draw a line. And actually, I want to get it a little bit closer than that. So, that's the first way you could do it. Then you could just come in and cut. Or you can eyeball it like I do. I just come in close to my score line, between the score line and the edge of the chipboard. But either way, whichever is easiest for you. Okay. So now what we're going to do, you'll see that you'll just start folding up these edges, creating a nice border around your chipboard. Okay. Now when you're making these albums, it's really important. You don't want these to come apart by any means, especially if you're giving it to a customer. So I typically like to go in and put a little bit of score tape, if I can find the end, and just start at the edge of the paper. I've had a customer reach out to me. She has a hard time getting the score tape off her paper. So the best thing to do after you put score tape down is to really use your bone folder and press it into your paper. That way the glue from the double-sided tape is adhered to your paper. And once it's adhered well to the paper, it's easier for that backing strip to come off. Okay. Now I usually like to do one edge at a time. We want to put some glue right up against the chipboard. and then I usually just adhere the glue even over the score tape. Like I said, you do not want these to come apart on you. Then you want to take a bone folder and just adhere it down really well. And if a little bit comes out, that's okay. The glue will dry clear. Glue this down. Just going to give that a good press down. We want that glue to adhere. And the reason I put it right up against the chipboard is we just want to make sure that everything is adhered well up against the chipboard as well. All right, we got our last side here. Oops. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to go and just round our corners with our bone folder. We don't want them to be so pointed out there that after time that those ends start wearing away if it's pointed. So I just like to go and round them so they're not quite so prominent. Okay, the next thing we want to do is I usually take my bone folder and find my crease and very gently start lifting it up on each side of that score line. This just helps it to fold a little bit easier. So now we've created our shell of our folio. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a second piece of paper that coordinates, and it's going to be 8 1/8 by 9 5/8. And you'll decide which pattern you like, and then we're going to glue that down. These really are super fun to make. I always say if you've got a lot of paper in your paper stash, these are a great way to use them. Okay, I'm just going to eyeball that there. Press that down. I'm going to use my bone folder. And then we're going to find that score line, and we want to use our bone folder. Got a little bit of, see, I've got a little bit of bubbling there, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to try to put in a little bit of glue underneath there. Little bit down here. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm not going to need all that glue, but you really do. Kind of like back in the day of wallpapering. Okay, so we're going to set that aside and we're going to let that dry just a little bit. And then we're going to bring in, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that's 4 by 7 3/4. And that's going to go over here. You don't want to get it on the score line. And I'm going to try to decorate mine a little bit. I'm going to use one of the We Are Memory Keeper. Let's see. I'm just going to give it a little decorative edge there, the little ticket stub. And we're going to put that down here. Alright, we're just going to adhere this down with our glue. Try to get as close to those edges as possible. The next thing you're going to need is 7 pieces of cardstock that are 4 by 4.5. And you're going to score on the 4.5 inch side of each one of them at a 1/2 inch. Bring your scoreboard back in. And at a 1/2 inch, I'm going to score at a 1/2 inch. I did some of these already beforehand, so you didn't have to watch me do this 7 times. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold and burnish on all the score lines. These are what's going to create your waterfall mechanism. Then you're going to need 15 pieces of designer series paper. They can all be the same, they can all be different, whatever your choice is. And they're going to be cut down to 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And I believe I've got these pre-cut as well. So now we're going to glue these on to the backings. Don't want to go over that score line. That's what I like about liquid glue. It gives you just a little bit of wiggle room to get that straight. Sometimes it's easier for me to flip these out. Whoopsie daisy. Looks like I had two together. Good thing I'm using glue. Her granddaughter's going to love these. These are so popular with the kids right now, according to what I've been learning. I remember high school. I loved high school. All right, so I've got these covered. So we're going to bring in our base. Now you can either use score tape to put these on or multi-purpose glue. I'm going to be using multi-purpose glue. Try not to get my head in the way. But you just want to fold that flap over that you put your glue to, and you want to put it right up to the edge. And you want to adhere it down. And then burnish it down. Find your next one. Do the same thing. Now, you're not going to, most people would think, okay, I'm just going to line it up here. You're going to put it below there. You just want to put it right below the bottoms where they meet up. I'm going to glue that down really, really well. And this creates your waterfall mechanism. And this allows you to keep things straight so you don't get off course. We're just going to continue down. Remember to flip that edge over that 1/2 inch mark that we scored and butt it right up next to the bottom of the top flap. Give give it a good burn it down. And we're going to do this for all 7. Okay, last one. Okay, so now you can see how it's a waterfall mechanism. It just, you know, she can add pictures there. She can journal on the back. She can put a picture here. Now, what I did in my other one was, now these I decorated the edges, but she requested that hers just be plain. So before you start gluing your paper on, you want to make sure that this is the point where you would come in and use one of your Mirror Memory Keepers chompers or corner rounders, whatever you want to use, before you start gluing on the designer series paper. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me, but I decorated the insides of the flaps too, and I did cut one more piece to do with you guys on camera, and then I'll finish the rest of them later. And then I also cut 3/8 by 3 3/4 inch strips to go in the middle, but this, you know, it's optional, whatever you want to do. I just thought it gave a nice look of a flow of the waterfall, so I did add a strip. So you would just keep adding on the inside, those squares. And then I cut strips to go in between. And see, I think it just makes a huge difference as opposed to just leaving it like this. I think it adds just a wow factor if you do add the strips. But once again, that's, you know, it's totally your preference. Let me know in the comments if you could see yourself making one of these albums. They're super simple. So then I would continue on with the next flap, adding my designer paper and my strips all the way through. Now let me show you how I created the pocket over here that can allow you to put tags, or you can put even more photo mats in here to create more photo opportunities for whoever you're making it for. You're going to need a piece of cardstock that's 4.5 by 5.5, and you're also going to need a piece of designer series paper for the matting that's 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. So we're going to take cardstock first. We're going to bring in our scoreboard. And on the long side, on the 5.5 inch side, make sure this is 5.5. We're going to score this at 5. And then we're going to turn it on the 4.5 inch side, and we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. So, okay. So we have our 2 score lines, and we're going to cut this little piece right here out. There's a little square down here. We're going to cut that off. We're going to miter in on both sides. Just taking a little piece off. It helps it lose some of the bulk when you're putting it together. Then we're going to put it back in here, and at the 1 3/4 inch mark, we're going to take a tool. It could be your scoring tool. It could be your pencil. Where's my pencil? The 1 3/4 inch mark, we're going to mark it. And then on the 5-inch side, we're going to turn it around and we're going to mark it at 3 1/2. So we need to take it down to 3 1/2, and we need to mark it with our pencil. Then what you're going to do with your scoring tool is you're going to line up those marks. And make sure you can see that. You should, whatever you marked with your pencil, line it up on your cutting track. So there's a mark, and there's a mark. So we want to do this pencil mark on the cutting track and this cutting mark. And we're just going to, let's see, need to do it this way. Actually, I'm trying to think now. Let me fold these down. Let me mark these again. 3 1/2. Bear with me here. Good grief, Michelle. You know how when you do things, things just don't look right, but then they probably are right, but there's just something about them that's not, it's looking a little off. Alright, on the 4 1/2 inch side, which I'm at, let me flip it over. That's probably what I need to do. So on the 4 1/2 inch side, we're going to mark it at 1 3/4. Let me try this. We're going to mark it at 1 3/4. And then on this side, we're going to mark it at 3 1/2. Is that going to be right? Three and a half. Okay, that's what I needed to do. You need to make sure that when you're marking, you're not marking on the scored side. That's where I knew it, because I knew if I cut it from here to here, it's going to cut off my flaps that I need. So make sure that when you're making your little tick marks or pencil marks, it's on the side that doesn't have the score line. I knew that didn't look right. So now we're going to line it up again, pencil mark to pencil mark in the tracking, and we're going to cut that off. Just like that. So now we have that pocket. Just make sure that's where I went wrong. I scored the first time on the flaps, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to make our tick marks on those flaps. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with our 3 3/4 by 4 3/4 pocket mat. So on the long side, we're going to score this at 5. Oops, get my cutting blade up at 5. Does that score that? My scoring blade. There we go. At 5 and a 1/2 inch. And then we're going to turn it to the 4 1/2 inch side and score it at 5. No, I just said that backwards. Oh, I've got myself so confused, and probably you guys too. Okay, I did that wrong. At the 5-inch side, we're going to score this at 3.5. Good grief, Michelle. 3.5. And then on the 4.5-inch side, we're going to score it at a 1/2 inch. Okay. Good grief. Alright, so let me fold these the right way. Okay. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to cut this at an angle because this flap is not cut right. I scored it wrong. But I will have all the measurements down because I messed up on that score. But you're just going to come back in and do the same measurements on the, let's see, on the 4.5-inch side, you're making a tick mark at 1 3/4, and on the 5.5-inch side, you're going to make a tick mark at 3.5, and then you're going to cut it. Or what you can do, which is probably what I should have done, is come in and you can just cut it off like this, which is what I would do. That way you only have to try to figure out tick marks once. I'm just going to do this for now because I messed up. And instead of you watching me cut another piece, we'll just create this flap. Well, that piece looks a little bigger than what it was supposed to be. Okay, so now when we create this flap, it's still a little bit too big, it looks like. But that's the gist of it. Let's cut a little bit off here. Let's trim this just a little bit. Give it a little bit of a haircut. Let's see if this works better. Okay, that's going to work better. That's going to work perfect. Okay, so let me show you how to attach the pocket. So we want to come in and put some adhesive on our tabs. You want to fold them back. You can get it as close to the score line without going over. Okay. I'm going to get that adhered down really well. You can take your bone folder and make sure those are adhered well. And do the same thing with these. Trim this down. Now, if you wanted to with the flaps, because I was going to do this for hers, I didn't do it on the original one, but you can make a double pocket. This will be a pocket, and this will be a pocket, which is why I did the flaps. So you can create 2 pockets there. Or you can cut your flaps off and just make that a mat. But I'm going to make this a double pocket. And that way you can put more journaling cards in, more photo mats, or you can just do the one pocket. But I thought I would give her something just a little bit different and give her 2 pockets. So she's got a pocket here and a pocket there. And then she's got ways to put her cards in. And being the fact that this comes with all kinds of things, you know, you're capable of amazing things. You can make all kinds of different tags to put in. They have different sizes. You know, you can make all kinds of things to add in. So she's got all kinds of room for pictures. And like I said, I'll go back and finish these off camera. But you can either close this with a ribbon closure. You can not have a closure like I did. You can use a magnet closure, just however you want to do it. I did use my crocodile to make some holes and added some ribbon and twine just to give the tags a little bit more of a dressed up look. Totally up to you. If you've got any questions, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments. And like I said, if you think you could make this or something that you would want to make or you're going to make, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining in.